Hi, good morning. This is Rikki and Obial and Bernadette Joy, and we're here to present about uh, the first course requirement for this semester, which is the facilities and warehousing in supply chain management. So, we'll be focusing on the importance of location records in an organization, and as well to present a sample or a real life application for this in um, in our everyday lives. So, yeah. So first off, we will start with the strategic capacity management. So just a disclaimer, if you want to, you can pause the video if you want to read some of the items that we have posted in detail. So, by definition, capacity is the ability to hold, receive, store, or accommodate any good or WIP. So, of course, any business aims uh, uh, to operate on the best or most optimal level. Um, this is wherein the output level is uh, uh, being produced in a minimized average cost. Also, to do this, we have to consider some of the factors like economies and diseconomies of scale, capacity focus, and capacity flexibility. So other considerations that we can also think about is system balance, frequency of capacity additions and reductions, and external sources of operations and supply capacity. So to determine the requirements needed, of course, we need to have a good forecasting technique in order for us to determine the equipment, labor, requirements, and therefore to plan the availabilities over the horizon. So most companies consider also capacity cushion or the buffer. Uh, this is also to minimize the risk of material or equipment shortages and excess. Uh, if a company is faced with many alternatives, they also one way to determine which is the best alternative to use is by using or utilizing the decision tree. Uh, Also, of course, there is what we call learning curve. So it means that uh, maybe at first a company will not get the capacity planning right the first time. But of course, as time goes by, when the planners are already already get used to the system or to the target market, then of course they would be able to plan the resources or the resource as well. Also, reading by definition, it is a line displaying the relationship between unit production, time and cost, and the cumulative number of units produced. So here are just some sample charts for your reference. So again, you can pause the video to take a look. Warehouse management or warehousing is the primary link between supply chain members and the customer. A warehouse stores all of the products within a time period, both the material and the finished good. So sorting products, shipping out to customers, and replenishment of stock are the daily or the most common functions of warehousing. Warehousing. So the nature and importance of warehousing in this overall supply chain is that these are the centers. These are the centers that are used for storage of inventories throughout the supply chain. It also houses raw materials for manufacturing, finished goods, and units that are undergoing reverse logistics or RMAs or return material authorities. So there are also many benefits of holding inventories, but I would not be reading most of it, but I'll just discussing one, which is to achieve the most optimal transportation economies of scale. So larger quantities are cheaper to ship on a per unit basis when volumes are larger. Also, we have this what we call warehouse management strategy systems. So WMS is the system used to effectively manage warehouse business processes and direct warehouse activities, including receiving, putaways, picking, shipping, and inventory cycle counts. So some businesses are also utilizing outsourcing, wherein they are using third-party warehouse businesses to store their goods or whips. So many organizations are now giving more importance to environmental, energy, and sustainability aspect of warehousing due to global major issues such as pollution and global warming, higher energy costs, and uncertainties in the economy. So warehousing must now be both sustainable and efficient. And to achieve these, most businesses are considering productivity, utilization, and performance. In warehousing, we also consider facility development. So this is the understanding the layout and types of facilities needed by the business before proceeding to the construction and equipment installations. So what needs to be done are first is location analysis, and we also need to understand the warehouse layout and before doing or moving on with the warehouse layouting and designing. So yeah, there are several factors affecting the warehouse size, but at the end of the day, of course, what needs to be considered the most is what the business actually needs. So, locations and facility management application. So, what happens when in a business when there's inaccuracy in locations records? So, here's a comparison of the advantages and disadvantages. But overall, lack of data integration would lead to a chaotic and dysfunctional workplace. Therefore, it will lead to inefficiencies of resource transfers between one location to another, and another thing is it will also cause over or under budgeting due to reworks, and ultimately leading to unsatisfied employees and worse for a high number of customer complaints. So, as for a real life application, I would be focusing on the worldwide COVID-19 vaccination program in the Philippines. So, just by reading, inefficient capacity locations management could lead to series of trouble. Without understanding the real demand, there will be, of course, serious supply shortage that would lead to delay in the vaccine administration, which is very critical nowadays since we are still dealing with the COVID-19, which started around December 2019 until today. And on the other hand, high supply surplus would be an investment loss also, as vaccination drugs tend to have expiration dates, and if those are important but not really utilized, then of course it will just unfortunately be needed to be scrapped. Also, vaccines have specific storage requirements. Most of the vials can only be stored at a certain temperature range for a specific time period. So, as I have said as I have said earlier, if these requirements are not met, then most probably those drugs would be just unfortunately scrapped. So vaccines, yeah, as I have mentioned earlier. So here is just a summary of different types of approve COVID-19 vaccines worldwide and their storage requirements. So it means that each brand have its own shipping, storage, and stability requirements for it to be reach its stability period or stability level. So it is important that the business owner, the one who imported or responsible for the drug administration in the Philippines, it's very important for them to have a clear understanding on whether what is on the resource allocation of the vaccines that we have imported back from abroad. So Miss Bernadette will be moving on to the next part of the discussion. So thank you.
Hello, I'm here to present a two-part discussion. Let's start with the introduction to warehousing. First, let's ask this question. In what way does warehousing add value in business and in supply chain? Now, let's talk about the right chain model. So this is the right chain model which was developed by Edward Frazell in the mid-1990s. This model integrates and optimizes walks through the 5 components of supply chain strategy such as customer service, inventory management, supply, transportation, and warehousing. Warehouse adds value in customer service by facilitating high inventory availability, shorter response time, value-added services, returns, customization, and consolidation among others. In facilitating high inventory availability, the fill rate must be high. Fill rate is the portion of a customer's demand satisfiable from on-hand inventory. In most cases, a significant investment in safety stock is required to provide high customer fill rates. The safety stock must be housed somewhere, which is what we call a warehouse. Warehouses in close proximity to the customer base and with short internal cycle times help to reduce response times to customer. Following the mass customization movement, the likelihood that an order will require customization in some form is increasing exponentially. Warehouses are uniquely equipped with the workforce and equipment to execute these value-added services. One customer service that is foundational to customers' expectation of logistics system but taken for granted is consolidation. For example, if you order a notebook and a pen from a mail order company, rarely would you want the pen showing up one day in advance, and the notebook showing up another day in another package. For items to show up at the same time in the same package, they most likely need to be housed in a warehouse. Returns constitute another customer service facilitated by good warehousing practice. Convenient and inexpensive returns for customers yield higher sales and customer satisfaction ratings. Warehouses and distribution centers are typically located in close proximity to customer base and have the workforce and material handling equipment uniquely suited to handling returns. Warehousing adds business and supply chain value in all the same ways as inventory. Warehouses and their inventory facilitate production economies of scale, optimize factory utilization via seasonal inventory builds, and mitigate supply chain and business risk by holding contingency and disaster inventory. When long production runs are economical, the resulting lot size inventory must be housed, most effectively, in a warehouse. Most corporations have significant peaks and valleys in their demand. For example, in the case of Hallmark cards, most of the demand for greeting cards falls in the Christmas and Valentine's seasons. To balance the production and optimize supply chain costs, Hallmark produces greeting cards at a fairly balanced pace during the year, resulting in a large storage requirement for most of the year. This seasonal inventory is stored in a large warehouse. Contingency and disaster inventory ensures against unexpected situations outside the realm of those covered by traditional safety stock inventory. Such situations include natural disasters, labor strikes, and other abnormal supply chain disruptions. Aside from production, raw material costs also make up most of the total landed product cost. After determining the optimal time of raw materials purchase, companies sometimes buy in bulk and these materials will be stored in the warehouse. After raw materials, the next most expensive cost component of the company's total landed cost in production. To help keep those costs low, the company operates with extremely long production runs. Another means by which companies seek to reduce material cost is low-cost foreign sourcing. Warehouses add significant value in the supply chain by facilitating the efficient inbound and outbound processing of international orders. As supply chain reduce inventory by shipping more frequently in smaller quantities, warehouses can help to provide transportation economies of scale by working as consolidation points for accumulating and assembling small shipments into larger ones, less than truckload shipments into full truckloads, less than container load shipments into full container loads. A frequently overlooked transportation expense is custom duties. Bonded warehouses allow consignees to delay duty payment until their goods are withdrawn from the bonded warehouse. Bonded warehouses located in free trade zones also permit in-transit goods to pass through without duties being charged at all. The fifth and last set of right chain supply chain strategy decision has to do with warehousing. Despite all the initiatives of e-commerce, supply chain integration, and efficient consumer response, the supply chain connecting manufacturing with end consumers will never be so well coordinated that warehousing will be eliminated completely. In fact, the length of supply chain owing to global sourcing and the potential for disruption as a result of increasing numbers and severity of climatic and security incidents are increasing the need of warehouse. Let's take a look at warehousing through the years. Warehousing has evolved from a simple activity devoted primarily to material storage in the 1950s and 1960s. With the adoption of JIT or just-in-time principle in the 1970s and 1980s, came smaller order sizes more often, less inventory, and greater need for order assembly activities occupying the space made available by inventory reductions. Warehouses were transformed into distribution centers, beginning the re-imaging of warehousing from a career-killing profession to a career-making profession. With the adoption of postponement, mass customization, supply chain integration, and global logistics in the 1990s, a number of cross-docking and value-added service activities were added in the warehouse. Logistics centers were created out of distribution centers, combining customized labeling and packaging, kitting, international shipment preparation, customer-dedicated processes, and cross-docking with the traditional activities of storage and order assembly. Under the influence of e-commerce, supply chain collaboration, globalization, quick response, and JIT, warehouses today are being asked to execute more smaller transactions, handle and store more items, provide more product and service customization, offer more value-added services, process more returns, receive and ship more international orders. At the same time, Warehouses today have less time to process order, have less margin for error, fewer young, skilled, literate personnel, and less warehouse management system capability. Warehouses are not disappearing but continue to play many valuable business and supply chain roles. On this slide, we can see the role of the warehouse in the logistic chain. Raw material warehouse hold inventory near or in factories. Work in process warehouse hold inventory in or near factories and serve primarily as variation buffers between production schedules and demand. Finished good warehouses typically hold large quantities of finished goods. Overflow warehouses are typically located near plant warehouses, often hold seasonal inventory, and are frequently operated by a third party. Distribution center warehouses are located much closer to the customer base than our plant warehouses. They receive product from many plant warehouses and serve customers with same or next day delivery. The delivery point for the distribution center determined its name. It could be home delivery, omnichannel, retail, or cross-dock. Now let's talk about the traditional warehouse process flow. Receiving is the collection of activities involved in the orderly unloading and receipt of all materials coming into the warehouse. Cross-docking is moving inbound material directly from the receiving dock to the shipping dock. Put away is the act of placing merchandise in storage. It includes moving material to and placing material in assigned put-away locations. Let's now proceed to the next chapter, which is warehousing activity profiling, data mining, and pattern recognition. Warehouse activity profiling and data mining is the systematic analysis of item and order activity, seeking to identify and take advantage of patterns of opportunity. Our pattern recognition algorithms highlight the root cause of material and information flow problems, pinpoint major opportunities for process improvements, and provide an objective basis for project team decision making. Here are the 9 P's of profiling. We have the preparation of profiling, the power of profiling, the participation of profiling, the probity of profiling, the purpose of profiling, the principle and principle of profiling, the pictures of profiling, the perspective of profiling, and the pitfalls of profiling. We're now going to talk about warehouse activity profiles. When we say order profiles, these include customer order profiles, purchase order profiles, and inbound-outbound transportation order profiles. In customer Paretos, some customer place such high demands on a warehouse, represent such a large portion of the activity of the warehouse, and have such demanding customer service requirements that it makes sense to establish a separate area within the warehouse for those customers. Composition profiles include the following: family mix profiles, handling mix profiles, and order increment profiles. Calendar clock profiles reveal peaks and valleys in the warehouse activity so that all elements of the warehouse infrastructure, like workforce, material handling systems, storage systems, and dock doors, can be sized optimally. Calendar clock profiles include the following: month of year activity profile, week of month activity profile, day of week activity profile, and hour of day activity profile. The item activity profile is used primarily to slot the warehouse, to decide for each item what storage mode the item should be assigned to, how much space the item should be allocated in the storage mode, and where is the storage mode the item should be located. The item activity profile includes the following activity profiles: popularity profile, cube movement profile, popularity queue movement profile, order completion profile, demand correlation profile, and demand variability profile. The inventory profile includes the item family inventory profile used to reveal opportunities for improved inventory management practices and the handling unit inventory used in storage systems planning. When we say on-hand inventory profile, this helps us identify the source of the inventory problem. Handling unit inventory profile gives a motivation of the profiling exercise, which is to give managers and designers of the warehouse operations a presentation of the activity of the warehouse in their terminology. So that's it for our presentation. Thank you for listening.